Great tragedy has rocked the Tauren tribes and shaken their once stalwart devotion to the Horde. A disagreement between the new Orc war chief Garrosh Hellscream and the beloved Tauren chieftain Cairn Bloodhoof led to a duel that ended in Cairn's death. With his loss, the vile matriarch Magatha Grimtotem launched a murderous attack, attempting to seize control of Thunder Bluff for herself. However, Cairn's brave son, Bane Bloodhoof, successfully repelled the attack and banished the surviving Grimtotem to the farthest reaches of the land. Under Bane's hopeful leadership, the Tauren people now seek to heal their wounds and restore the balance between the various factions of the Horde. To this end, a new generation of Tauren Sunwalkers has arisen to lead their people into the light of a new dawn and the promise of rebirth. As a proud tribesman of Mulgore, you must uphold the honor of your people and safeguard the lands of your ancestors.
Hello WoW gamers, another introduction into the races in Cataclysm. As you can see, the introduction to the Tauren starting area has changed quite a bit, and the outlay for the area has also changed quite a bit. And in all honesty, I think the storyline is a little bit more interesting than it was in the original game. To be honest, I've never been that huge of a fan of the Taurens. At least not when I tried to create a warrior at one point. I think actually the problem was it was a warrior, and the problem was that I didn't think the warrior was fun to play, because the Tauren is actually quite an interesting race. And again, with that bastard of Garrosh doing even more crazy shit. Oh, sorry. He's not that popular. Let's face it, he's done a lot of crap, and there is no doubt in my mind that Garrosh, which is, if you don't know, of course, is going to take over leadership of the orcs after Thrall. Although I don't know why. Maybe there is probably some type of storyline. I haven't looked it up. But anyway, the old Tauren leader has been killed, and now there's a new guy. This is just a thought. This is just me playing around with how Blizzard could change this game and continue the storyline and everything. But I don't really feel that. In my honest opinion, the Tauren has never really been a Horde race. I'm not saying that the Alliance are good and the Horde are bad. It's more of if you try to take it into real life, the Alliance is UN how it should be. People of different races, different languages, different religions, working together as a unity and fighting a common enemy. So the Alliance is how the UN should be, but the Horde is how the UN is in reality, where people are flawed, they can't really work together, they don't want to help others unless there's a gain for themselves, and so on and so forth. But now that you have that huge change in leadership, and you have Garrosh now, and remember that Thrall was the one who united all the Horde races as one and got them to work together. Now that he doesn't lead anymore and Garrosh is running the show, he can do some stupid stuff he already has, and maybe we could see in a future expansion the Tauren getting pissed off of always being treated badly of Garrosh. So they suddenly switch sides, suddenly having the Tauren becoming an alliance race. I think that could be very cool, and I know a lot of Hordes would, especially Taurens who love Horde, were probably gonna get mad if they were suddenly to log off the game one day and the next day they were on the different side. So I think you should, if they did something like this, they would probably have to create a storyline, a quest chain that you could go through, where you would see a lot of stuff, and then at one point take a choice. Do you want to continue to back up Garrosh and stay a part of the Horde, or do you want to strike peace with the Alliance and become part of the Alliance and fight Garrosh for all the crap he's done? Anyway, I just think that could be interesting. And I guess you would say, what would you do for the Horde then? Would you have one extra class or one extra race for the Alliance? Or would you have, you can choose one, it would be sort of a neutral. You would go through a storyline and then pick a choice. Or maybe you could do something similar on the Alliance to Horde. in my honest opinion, and it's not, a lot of people will probably think that I'm a horde, or I'm a gnome hater. I'm not. I don't hate the gnomes, but it's just one of my least favorite races. The way the gnomes are, I guess you could kind of speculate that if there was one of the Alliance races that would end up betraying the Alliance and maybe go horde, then the gnomes would probably be a bet on who would do this. Maybe it's just me, my disliking of the gnomes, but in my opinion, I don't trust the gnomes as far as I can throw them. Now I know they're not that big, so I could probably throw them pretty far, but I just don't trust them. Anyway, that's just my opinion on what could become of the future, of how maybe you could throw in a twist to the game. I thought it could be cool, definitely. Like I mentioned before, it's not like the Horde are bad guys and the Alliance are good guys, but you just sometimes get the feeling that I've never really felt that the Taurens belong on the Horde side, because they're not your typical Horde race. I mean, you have the ultimate bad guys being the Blood Elves, you have the Orcs, which is pretty okay, I guess, you have the Trolls that hate everyone, you have the Undead, you can't trust them whatsoever, they are only being part of the Horde when it suits them. One of their own agendas are in play. They don't care if they kill Horde or Alliance alike. We've seen it with the Death Gate. They killed just as many Horde, a part of their own team, so to speak, as they did the Undead and everything. So that we can't trust them is pretty obvious. And what do we have left? The Taurens. They're just not the typical Horde race. I mean, they're all that, the Earth Mother and nature, and they're actually more like a cow version of Night Elves. I think that's a good explanation. That's something that just popped into my mind. I thought it was, but there is a, if you take the way they embrace nature, they're very much into the Night Elves. I would actually, if you were to compare the two races, I would probably say that the Night Elves would probably be more of like Wood Elves, and the Tauren could be, I don't know, Plain Elves, but something similar. In their beliefs and all that, they're very similar in my opinion. Anyway, that was just the thought that popped into my head. So let me know in the comments what you think about this, if you think that this could be a way to continuing the story and doing some revisions to the races, or if you think that I'm just totally insane. Just let me know, I want to know what you think. Getting back to the area of the video, the starting area, it's pretty good. I would say it's a little bit too much running back and forth, especially when you have to get to your trainers. The quests are not that far away, but there's some downtime where you're running back and forth to train stuff, and then you run past the quest givers to get to the quest area that you need to kill, and it's a lot of running back and forth. And it feels that the distances between the quest givers and the quest areas are pretty big. But I must admit, the way that you get transported from the level 1 to 5 area and get to the next part of the area, that is a very, very cool way of doing it. You'll see it at the end of the video. There's just a very different way, but very, very Tauren-y way of transporting from the starting area to the first town. Now, when it comes to transport in Cataclysm, they have fortunately put in way more flight points, so you're going to be able to do a lot more taxiing, and that's going to be very good, at least for low-level characters. But I've always wished that Blizzard would put in a mount. They could have given you some kind of mount, maybe just a 30 or a 40% speed mount that you could get from level 1. It wouldn't be that big of a deal when it comes to storyline. And you could, at level, let's say 20 like it is now, you could get your first ground mount. That could be put to 80%. And then you could have the epic ground mount could be 120%, for example. That way you would still feel that you would get a speed increase, and there would be a reason for you to pay money for these new riding skills, but you would still have at least some increased movement when you were playing at the very early levels. And especially with a race like Tauren, they're so big that even though the run speed is the same from all the races, because they're so big and so tall, their legs move slower, logically. So, I mean, if you're seeing a gnome run or a dwarf, their legs move way faster because they're shorter, but the speed in which they transport is the same. But because they're so big, you don't feel that, so you feel like they're moving very, very, very slow. So that's just one of those things that, if you're listening, Blizzard, or watching, that could just be something to think about. Maybe putting in some kind of minor increase for mounts, or minor speed increase of some way to help the lower level characters, because transport, or moving from A to B when you have nothing to do, is the biggest problem. And this is why taxiing is such a pain in Cataclysm. Not just in Cataclysm, but in general. And I wish, instead of having us jumping on a flying mount from north to south, I mean, there are not much people that pay to use the taxis today, at least not Northern and Outland. Most people fly using their flying mounts anyways, but Blizzard could implement a direct transport. So the idea would be that you go to these taxi points, the flight points, and you talk to the person you talk to, and you jump on the mount, and then 2 seconds into the flight, bam, you transport it directly to the area just a few seconds before you land. So the travel would be instant. That way you wouldn't have that downtime of up to 10 minutes. If you're flying from the most northern point, either in Kalimdor or Eastern Kingdoms, and to the most southern point, it takes about 10 minutes. If I remember correctly, the longest flight point, that's from the Kalthasar Island to Booty Bay. I think that takes about 11.5 minutes. So that's a huge downtime to fly from those 2 points. I would definitely pay in-game money, let's say 2 or 5 gold or even 10 gold, to get transported instantly from point A to point B. They could make a price that would be something in the line of a gold per minute, or whatever price they want to pay. I think a lot of people would pay this amount of gold if they made flight points a little bit more effective. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and I think that is just everything from me for this video. So, see you later, guys. Bye.